Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Nick Egan Times. On this episode, we have two world-class composers and producers. We have the multi-talented Mark Batson and Chris Hanebutt, who are the powerhouse duo behind HBO's Critic Choice winning documentary The Alabama Solution, which premiered at Sundance and is now streaming on HBO Max. Mark is a six-time Grammy winner with over 132 million albums sold, working with Eminem, Beyoncé, Jay-Z, Nas, 50 Cent, Alicia Keys, Yo-Yo Ma, and Dave Matthews Band, with credits including American Hustle, Tonya, Spider-Man 2, Empire, and Godfather of Harlem. Chris is a composer, producer behind Wu-Tang and American Saga, The Equalizer 2, Shots Fired, David Makes Man, Infinite, and Peace, plus work with Mary J. Blige, Nipsey Hussle, Wiz Khalifa, and BJ the Chicago Kid. His song also on the come up opens every Power series. Together they have both scored Stars Power Book 4, Force, the LA Law reboot pilot, and One Person, One Vote. Welcome to both the multi-talented Mark and Chris, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having us, Nick.
Thanks for having us, Nicholas.
You're welcome. All right, let's jump straight into it. Take us both back individually and tell us about your backgrounds, where you grew up, and I guess how you initially got started into it.
My name is Mark Batson. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I grew up in Bushwick Projects. My dad was a classical opera singer who sang community opera on the weekends and also mainly worked at the post office. My mom's played classical guitar. I grew up at the beginning, at the birth of hip hop in the early 70s in New York. During that time, taking piano lessons. Myself and my brothers and sisters, we all had classical piano lessons, and we were playing at Carnegie Hall by the time we were 12 and 13 years old. But also, I was in a rap group, and I love hip hop music at the birth of hip hop. My brothers and sisters had jobs in Harlem, so I would travel up to Harlem to see the early hip hop culture being born. Some of the first big rap groups that became legendary. Got a scholarship to play jazz piano at Howard University. I was the jazz pianist for their big band. From there, I went on to uh, be the pianist for the African American Culture Department at Smithsonian Museum, where I had an 18-piece big band that played Duke Ellington music and music of the 30s and 40s. I got out of school, got my first job as a programmer for Arabian Rakim. Toured with a lot of bands, got signed as a rapper. Uh, um, um, then later on went to tour with a lot of bands and then started to produce records after that. The first record I was serious about producing was NDRE's Acoustic Soul, which was nominated for 7 Grammys, including Album of the Year. And then from that point, I've been producing records and since and lately over the last 5 or 6 years or so, scoring film and television with Chris.
Incredible.
I don't even know how to follow that. I'll try.
Yeah, go.
Um, my name's Chris Hanebutt. Born in Delaware, Dover, Delaware. Grew up in South Carolina, and split my time back and forth. Um, I was always a music lover, but most of my stuff as a kid was I did barbershop quartet stuff with my dad. Got me into that as a kid. But I didn't get into really heavily playing instruments until I was in college. I was 20 when I picked up the guitar for the first time, and then just became completely obsessed with it. Like all day, every day. That's all I did. And then within a couple of years, I was playing gigs and making a living off the guitar. And within, I'd say 2 years, and then year and a half or so after that, after my regular college. Got my degree. Then I got a scholarship to go to a music school here in LA. So I left South Carolina and moved out here, lived in Hollywood, did that whole thing. And then got my first gig scoring a commercial for the NBA. I met somebody at a party and the guy was like, "Oh, can you score?" And I was like, "Sure." And, and so I borrowed my roommate's laptop and I made the beat. And it was like the first thing that I'd ever made on a laptop. And I put it together, competed against all the other people, and I won the gig. And so that was my first thing that I ever did. and then I worked on some shows on NBC and things like that, and then got back into performing for a while, and then took a crack at doing artist stuff, 15 years ago, working with other artists, and then and different television shows for Fox and things like that, and movies like Equalizer and all the things that you mentioned. And then met Mark through a mutual friend, and he put me on my first major release with Anthony Hamilton, and played guitar and mixed on that, and then that opened up a lot of doors for me. And I was able to then use that that Mark put me on for, and a music supervisor friend named Jabari Ali put me on some, because of that, I was then able to work with BJ the Chicago Kid and signed a deal with Fox to write the theme song for Shots Fired and a bunch of other songs for that. And then, it just kind of started rolling, with lots of ups and downs in between as the industry goes. But I mean, that's the gist of it.
That's incredible. Thank you for both sharing that. It's remarkable. Tell me about how both your working relationship and how you collaborate is. How does that, I guess, what's the dynamic?
Well, myself and Chris, we both have specialties that complement each other very well. I'm a pianist first by nature, pianist with a kind of hip hop background, also a string and horn arranger, which is my forte. Chris can do all those things well. He's a fantastic guitarist and also engineer, and an amazing programmer and like a sonic wizard, a sonic genius with soundscapes. And together we complement each other really well. Like whatever I feel like I'm stuck on, he can do. I could play a little guitar, but I can't play guitar nowhere as good as he does. And we bounce back and forth on different things when we're working on a score. We watch a scene and we talk about how the scene could be complemented, who could be the best person to lead that scene and who could be the best person to follow. And we come to work with no ego. We come just to complement each other, to complement the scene, to complement the director, and to get the best possible work. And we've been doing it for a while now. And every project we've worked on, it's been a great collaboration. We've been successful with our projects. We just finished doing 3 years of scoring one of the top shows for Black and Latin television in America, called Power Force, which is on Stars. And our latest project is we scored the documentary Alabama Solution for HBO.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Tell me about the Alabama Solution, the background behind it. And I guess it's got a really strong narrative and, intense background behind it. Yeah, talk to me about that.
So Alabama Solution is a documentary that focuses on the Department of Corrections in Alabama, and the atrocities that are going on, the murders and the enslavement, and the disappearing of individuals. It's what separates it from, there's been other documentaries on the criminal justice system here in the U.S., but this one is mainly filmed by the incarcerated men on contraband cell phones, which makes it incredibly raw. The footage is undeniable, right? I mean, and to see it like that, as if like you were there with these men as they're going through what they're going through, is just, it's heartbreaking and yet inspiring at the same time, because the main characters, Kinetic and Melvin, are just their heroes and putting their lives on the line by telling these stories. So it's a really incredible piece of art, in my opinion. I mean, like Andrew Jerikai and Charlotte Kaufman, the directors and producers, I mean, they put together a really incredible documentary, and we're really lucky to be a part of it. I mean, it's the most meaningful project that I've been a part of. It's a legacy project, and you don't get to be a part of many things like that, I think, in your career. I mean, and we've been lucky. Mark's been a part of many legacy projects that he can hang on the wall, and this one, for me, is one of those projects.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. You should both be proud. How emotional and confronting was it?
This
It
project
was,
was it
sorry.
was extremely emotional. I mean, from the first point, we work with a supervisor named Sue Jacobs. I've done a lot of films with her, and when she sent over the footage, it was shocking. The atrocities that bypassed Guantanamo Bay, what we know about Guantanamo Bay. I mean, what we've seen about Guantanamo Bay when we saw the in the documentary, that footage was worse. And this is going on right here in America where reporters are not allowed to see. So the fact that the men who were incarcerated were able to use the cameras to shoot, the fact that, these murders were going on in there and that, people could be killed at will or disappeared at will for not following these horrible directives, that was an initial shock. So when I first watched the film, it took a lot out of me. I was stunned, but also angry.
Mhm.
Also angry at wanting to participate in whatever way we could lend our voices to make any kind of changes, or at least let the story be heard. And I think that was the main thing from these heroes that emerged from the film, like Kinetic Justice and Melvin Ray. What we see from them is their desire to just be heard. It's even how dangerous it is in the film, he's almost killed. I guess really, when you look at it more than once, for speaking up and for fighting against the system. So it was a very emotional project. It was emotionally rewarding at the same time. I got to speak with Kinetic Justice directly, and to see what kind of person he was amazed me. He filled my body with energy. He was so bright, so happy to be heard, so well spoken, so tapped into the good nature. He had fought so hard to remain his humanity, to keep his humanity under these inhumane conditions, that it was inspiring to me. So I was flooded with a series of emotions, but now this is action time, and I'm glad to be pushing the ball forward, to be spreading this word all the way to Australia, for people to see the Alabama Solution, watch the Alabama Solution on HBO, to go on the alabamasolution.com website and get involved, and to make sure that things don't happen, that these atrocities are ended once and for all, that America does not have the highest incarceration rates in the world, and we need less recidivism, and we would like to see some rehabilitation come out of this, as well as just the punishment. We see other nations who have corrective systems, where prisoners are being rehabilitated, or in places like the Netherlands, where they're actually closing prisons because they're doing so well at evolving people to get back into society. So overall, my answer to you is that it was extremely emotional, but emotionally rewarding at the same time.
Significant, and thank you for sharing that as well, because getting the message out there is half the battle, and you're doing an incredible job, both of you doing that, so sensational. All right, tell me about Stars Power book and the background behind that, and I guess that experience.
That is so I have a friend that works at Lionsgate that that I met right before COVID, and through the whole shutdown, um, we were talking more and more about this project that stars at Power. And when the opportunity came up for them to find new composers, I recommended Mark, because honestly, I didn't have the credits to pull down a project like that. I'd done some work on the show and on the theme, but and so I recommended Mark, and Mark was like, "Oh, let's partner together." And so that was that simple. It's like, okay, and so that's it. So when we got the gig, and we it's been a lot of fun working on it. I mean, it's just action packed, and to be a part of a brand like Power is like really incredible, because there's never a time in the world that like somebody's watching Power all the time. Like there's never a time somebody's not watching it somewhere in the world. It's just It's like 1.8 billion hours of stream time. So
Yeah.
it's a really cool thing to be a part of. And like they say, power never dies. So it's like spinoffs and all of that. We're hoping to always be a part of it and always be in there. And it's opened a lot of doors for us. And it birthed our scoring partnership, as well. But to do it on something like that's iconic, that is so culture, it's very culturally significant. It's awesome.
Tremendous. Um, Tell me about both of you obviously being composers. What's something that the general public or people don't understand about being a composer?
Um, would you want to answer that, Chris?
Well, there's a couple things. One would be how team oriented it is. Like being
Sure.
a composer, in a lot of ways, it's like you're also a business owner. Like you have to run. You're a team runner. Like you're not just making music. It's like people don't hire you per se because of how great you are at making music. They're in a lot of ways they're also hiring you even more importantly because they know you're going to hit the deadlines. You're going to make sure all the paperwork is done. You've got the team that can handle whatever needs to get handled, right? You're okay. You can collaborate with people. Um, you take the phone calls on time and you show up to the meetings and you don't argue. It's all of those types of things. Like if you could set the ego aside, I think that's probably the biggest. That is the biggest thing that keeps you getting hired is being easy to work with. I think that's a lot of. I mean, unless you're John Williams, then John is just the genius. He's like the greatest ever. So like and he's a nice guy. So,
Mm.
it's, but
Yeah, I
Great.
think that people don't understand that when we're working on television, when you see a major motion picture, a movie is going to be, hour, 30, 40 minutes to average movie, average hour and a half, 40 minutes to 2 hours. When you're going in to do a score for a film, that might be a 6 month process, or even longer, depending on what the movie may be. When you're working on television, you're kind of scoring a movie every 10 days. It's much faster. They do the work is coming at you faster. When they have a show, when you see a television series that has 10 episodes, it has a bunch of directors. It's not like one director making the whole thing because it has a lot of moving parts. They have to have different directors working all at the same time. So you have a bunch of directors making their own 1 hour movie. So now the pace is much quicker. So that's with teams. That's why it's good for myself and Chris. It's teamwork. Hey Chris, you take these scenes, you take that scene. He passes back. I take this scene, I take that scene. I'll take this meeting, you take that meeting, and everything just runs like clockwork. I think it for myself is I love it because it feeds into my own sense of meticulous nature of time, space, getting things done on schedule. I enjoy that. I'm an early riser, so I get up early. I'm working in odd hours in the morning. But just the fact that we're delivering what is the equivalent of a movie score every 10 days of original music with a high level of efficiency. And that maybe that's something that people don't know when they watch a series.
yeah, and to put a number like 36, we could do 36 minutes of music a week,
Wow.
like in five
Wow.
days. Like 36 minutes of original music in 5 days. Cut, recorded, mixed, bounced out, stems delivered. Right. It's
Right.
it's it's a lot. And so that's yeah. So even when you see one person's name on music by and it's one person, it's not one person.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, if you see music by Hans Zimmer, if you go to Hans Zimmer's building, there's 10 or 15 composers sometimes working in the same building, where
Wow.
he's coming up with ideas and they're going and they're passing the music around and people are developing this and this one's developing that. And it's a factory of music and not just like one person
mhm.
making all of the music in the room by themselves.
That's fascinating. Um,
Mm.
Tell me, what's the best compliment you've both individually received in your careers?
I have one from myself personally with working with Dr. Dre.
Sure.
Uh, the assistant who works with him, who's worked with him for many years, they've seen producers come and go of quality producers, people who have different sense of organization, certain times or whatever. And we were working with a producer, and one of the producers missed the flight. And I don't think I've ever work wise, I've never missed a flight in my life, unless it was like an airline issue. But it's like I've never showed up late at the airport or whatever. And so I came in the room, and somebody said, with the main guy who does all of the organization for everything, and they said, this so and so didn't make it, someone didn't say they didn't make it. He said, and they said he should be like more like Mark. And he said to me, my favorite compliment. He said, Mark Batson, you could set your clock by that motherfucker. And that to me is one of my favorite compliments of all time.
Awesome.
I mean, I don't even know because I don't like getting compliments. So you're compounding already something that I have difficulty with. I'm very I deflect. I have no
Don't have imposter syndrome now, Chris.
no, no, I mean
We
I just
discussed
literally
that
have
this
no
morning.
idea. I have no idea. I can't think of any big ones like that, like really right off the top of my head. I think it's small ones that I get. I like to hear things from, like last night I was at an event for the HBO thing for this movie, well, for all the documentaries, and a woman that I met waiting in line for my car, we were talking, and she's like, "Why are you here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm one of the composers on um I was like, oh, I worked on Alabama Solution." And she was like, "Oh wow, that is such an incredible story." And she's like, "What did you do on it?" And I was like, "Well, I was one of the composers." And she just said, "Wow." And I mean, like, it was that simple. And
Right.
that you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
emotional of like, wow, like that's it. Like that type of a reaction is like, it like makes it, that's what makes me feel, that made me feel really good. Cause I was like, oh, she got it. Like, oh, she really
Yeah.
appreciates
Nice.
it. Yeah.
Amazing.
So
Yeah. That's amazing. What, for both of you individually, who's the most talented artist you've ever worked with?
I, I can't really answer that question because people are talented in different ways,
Sure.
and that's why I really can't answer. I mean, I teach at USC part time right now, and I have a student that's in my class now that is one of the most talented people that I've seen in a long time. As far as can do everything well, this who can sing, who can write, who's a great performer, who I feel like who's a great keyboardist, great pianist, great songwriter, but also a great viola player, and a great guitarist,
crazy.
who I see a future of the person scoring. So sometimes I see people that are well-rounded at everything like that, and that's been interesting. But each artist, like I think Eminem as a rapper, I mean, like what he does is rap wise. I don't think any human being has ever accomplished that. So I would say he's most talented at what he does. But then Nas is just as talented as Eminem, but in a totally different way. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Beyonce is probably one of the most talented people on earth at what she does. But Alicia Keys is just as talented as Beyonce, but in a different way. And Alicia Keys is another one of those persons who can play instruments, who can sing, who can write, who can arrange, and do all of those things. But again, I might meet somebody who does something physical, some physical with their bodies, who might be, I went to see this a group that dances in New York called the Urban Bushwomen, and some of the dancers for them, or for the dancers for Alvinelli, are some of the most talented people I've ever seen in my life. So I think the talent is relative to whatever that situation is. And so I wouldn't say most talented. I would say it's a bunch of people who are talented at different things.
Sure. Chris?
I think that I mean, that was a perfect answer.
Yeah.
It was both complimentary and diplomatic. Hmm. I don't really have. I don't think I can't say who is more talented, like who's the most talented. I have my favorites artists that I've worked with over the years, and they're and a lot of times they're not in particularly like maybe the most famous. Like I think my favorite rapper that I've ever worked with is definitely Pharoah Monch. But you know, he's a genius. Also, I just love his like I've always been a fan. So I think a lot of times it's guys, it's artists that I've looked up to for a long time that then had the opportunity to finally work with them. Another I love Anthony Hamilton. I grew up on like listening to Anthony Hamilton. I've been a fan of his forever. So it's you know it's different artists like that. Um, I mean Mary's awesome too, right? So um, but yeah, I think I have to kind of go with like what Mark's saying on that. It's like everybody's different and shines in different ways.
Yeah.
So you know, and it's my I guess it's my job to just stay out of the way of that.
Right.
Just
Great.
get out of the way. Try to stay in the room.
Great answer. Um, what would you both want your legacy to be?
Hmm.
That's one of those Mike Tyson questions. When
Yeah.
somebody asked recently, they asked Mike Tyson what something about his legacy, and then Mike Tyson said, what does it matter? Because he said, I'm going to be dead. You know what I mean? Like nobody's going to remember me at all in X amount of years. It's like we look at now, and we go like, what's the legacy of Joe Louis? Like I know who Joe Louis is, but I can tell you a lot of people who don't. And then there was a time, when he fought, against Max Schmeling in World War II, when, he was the representative of America versus the Nazis' best boxer who had already beat him. And this World War II is going on. And he fights Max Schmeling and destroys him in the ring. At that point, he's the most important boxer in history, and his legacy is the most important. I think for me, it's more or less when I think of legacy, I think of what I'm doing now. More or less how it will be remembered or how it will be appreciated in the future. And I think legacy is more or less, as Chris described, this project, Alabama Solution, is a legacy project. It's something, when I think of legacy, I think of things that are bigger than myself. I don't think of my own personal legacy. I think of things that I've worked on, or things that I've been a part of that have an accomplishment or importance to humanity or importance to the evolution of humanity. These are the things that are the most important to me.
Great.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that. I'm exactly the same page when it comes to projects like Alabama Solutions, like just being a part of things that are much bigger than us. And that's a really rare thing where your output is not the final project, right? Because like when we make a song, it's like the song that we make or whatever, that's the final output. And here we're like this small part of this larger thing. That's not even just not even just the documentary. It's like men's lives, are attached and on the line. And to be able to be a part of something that just tells that story that's a legacy. I mean, that's something that, you as a creative is like something, that's everything that you could want as a creative. Personally, legacy, I was watching this documentary about John Candy that just recently came out. I can't remember what network is on. It's great. And at the beginning of it, at his funeral, Dan Aykroyd gives the eulogy. And the way that Dan Aykroyd eulogized John Candy was just like one of the most incredible things I think I've ever heard somebody say about somebody. And I heard Count Basie do the same thing in his book, um, Music is My Mistress. He eulogizes somebody in a songwriter friend of his. And I think that, so all of that to be said, like, I want the people that are closest to me to just I hope that like I'm remembered by the people closest to me as being kind and giving and forgiving and loving. Like if that I feel like that and other than work, it's just like that. If like the people closest to me feel that way about me, that I would just that would I hope that's my legacy.
Impressive. If you were both 18 again and you could change anything, can be personally or professionally, what would you change?
Change anything personally or professionally. For me, on a personal level, I think that Chris is another inspiration to me. Is a physical fitness fanatic, and I'm the opposite of a physical fitness fanatic. So if I could change anything about myself, it's to be more like Chris and more disciplined as far as exercise in the gym and not be as cerebral. Because I'm a studio. I could just be in my space and just create for X amount of time. As time progresses, as you get older, you just want to spend more time outdoors, more time getting vitamin D, and more time just working out in the gym and enjoying that. And that's my been one of the things that it's been a great inspiration with me with Chris is coming in with him and being inspired and talking about going to the gym and talking about working out and talking about getting better on in a person overall on a physical level.
How about professionally?
Professionally,
Yeah.
um, I, if I were to change something, you know what? I think as a creator, just becoming more, I hate to use this word, more corporate aware because the finances pay for the creativity. So over the years, I've become better and better at that.
Mm-hmm.
Better at forming my own company so that I could create the arts that I want to make on my own, or make the movies that I want to make the films. I'm learning no more now about how to get the actors and the directors that I need to work on the projects that I want. So it's more like learning the corporate side over the creative side and just getting better at that. I feel like as all musicians, are probably a little behind on that, and just catching up on that.
Great, thanks for sharing.
How
Chris?
about you, Chris?
I think professionally, I think I wish I if I would change one thing, it would have been taking risks earlier on. Like there definitely were times that I played it safe, maybe didn't make that phone call because I
Yeah,
was worried that it wouldn't go through.
we all
Knowing
are.
now in retrospect, now it's like if I'd have made the phone call, it would have happened. I feel like that type of stuff professionally, I just wasn't. I just didn't have the confidence in my ability at times when and now looking back, going, I definitely could have done that. I should have made that call.
Yeah, what the thing about that call, and even not to cut you off, Chris, is that when you don't make that call once, they say somebody else is making that call five times.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I hear you on that.
Right. Yeah. It's and being out and about and doing those types of things. Early on, early in my career, I was just wanted to be great at it. I just wanted to be good. I wanted to get better at all the different types of crafts. And one of the crafts that you have to be really great at is being out, like being around people, being with, because networking is so important in the industry. And early on, I was so just like, oh, if I'm great, people will notice. But it's like, well, not if you're by yourself all the time. Nobody ever sees or hears. You can have a hard drive full of incredible music, and
Right.
what good does it do? And to piggyback on all of that, I wish I'd have released more music. Like I wish I would have just released more of my stuff and like things that I'd done with friends really early on.
Yes.
It would have been helpful, especially now as the industry has changed and it's so easy to put music out. It's like I should have been doing. I wish I'd have done that early on. Personally, hmm, I mean, I'm really happy with my life. I'd say like I think that one thing that I've done in my life is that I probably to the most honest answer to that would be I've probably drank too much. I've drank too much alcohol in my life. Like that has been at different times in my life a major brain and time just sucked life and time and energy when there's no need, was no need for it. So I think that personally, that would be something that, you can't change you can't change that type of stuff, but that's something that I would say. That's probably the most personal answer that I could give to that.
I used to say it like that sometimes, Chris, but I think about records I made with like Dave Matthews in the woods in Virginia.
Yeah.
Like, they break out the Blantons with the horse on the top, and then we start writing songs, and
Yeah.
I could never, give that. You know what I mean? Like it is, if there's a social aspect to creativity, especially when you're writing songs. Again, we're all older now, so we
Yeah.
can't drink like we used to drink.
Right.
But
Yeah.
in those particular days,
Yeah.
I had my share of shots, and I don't think I regret any of them
No.
during the creative process.
Yes, that's the thing that I separate those two things between the creative process and the non-creative drinking.
I get it.
Sometimes when you're in the studio every day, that starts to blur together, right?
It does.
Like, yeah.
Yes,
They're
indeed.
great answers, great insights. And thank you for sharing and being so honest and vulnerable with the answers too, and honest. Um,
Thank you.
Mark and Chris, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I do appreciate it. I have an incredible time